Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm your host, Josie Way. Co-hosting with me tonight is Ken Demers, with his eyes closed against the lights, and Kathy Medeiros. Our guest is Michelle Blanding. She does so many things, but what we're going to discuss is how she blends so many things. She does yoga nidra. For those of you that don't know what it is, she's going to tell you what it is. And it's not what you think with poses. It's different. Various healings, mediumship, cards, and she works them all together to give a personal reading and healing for everyone that comes to her. How did you get started with this?
Well, Josie, this is a good question. I'm wondering myself why I'm still doing this and sitting here. In 2012, I had a Kundalini spiritual awakening. I met my twin flame, and the spiritual community people know that this month and this year is the 11-11-11 gateway, this whole month, and we're in the twin flame hype right now. And that's mainly how I became involved with this. I grew up Catholic, although I always practiced other, spiritual type things. My mom had a lot of friends who used to come to the house and do tarot. We had 8 balls for Christmas and Ouija boards for Christmas, and it was never an issue. It was never a big thing around, like, should we not do this, should we do this? So I actually started to get into spiritualism at the same time I met my twin. I was praying all the time and saying the rosary, and started at home doing meditations online, mostly on YouTube. And I became very involved in chants, yoga chants, and hypnosis, all kinds of angel prayers on YouTube and Facebook, and following different healers, trying to heal myself, because I was diagnosed with bipolar mania for many years, and I've, thank God, with the help of guides, angels, been off, and other healers, off meds since 2013.
Wow.
And I realized that I've been doing this my whole life. I've always been a healer and gifted. I've always been in contact with spirit. I had an eclectic background growing up. One side is completely Catholic, and the other side, almost nothing at all, atheist, practically, although I found out later one of my grandparents was Catholic, but they've never practiced. My dad became Catholic to marry my mom, and that's it. They pretty much don't practice it, although the other side of the family does. So my mom is not really into it at all, and my dad as much. But the rest of the family, aunts, uncles, cousins, all that, very, very strict grandparents. And then the other side, I grew up mainly in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And Vermont, every year we went to a trailer up there. We have family on my dad's side, on his father's side. And so one of them owned a dairy farm, and I grew up in the woods, and learning how to shoot and learning how to get really involved with different plants and different trees and barks. My grandmother always taught me about flowers and bark and berries and all that good stuff. So she was really
Little did you know.
So I always had this gift, and then when I realized that I didn't even know what a twin flame was, and I started looking it up and I got into all this stuff, it started to develop. Yeah. And I started to branch out to different healers, like I said, to heal myself. But then I started going because I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved doing it. And then I found out I could do it. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I can do this, like, not just for me. I can have a business, I can make money, I can be able to support myself, I can able to finally do something that is for me, that I can not have to say that I'm like dependent on someone else. And so I started doing my yoga practice, Yoga Nidra, a lot, became part of it.
Tell us about Yoga Nidra.
Yoga Nidra was one of the main things I started to do once I started to branch out, because I wanted to set intentions for myself and for my life and goals, and got a little off track because although I was really into all the spiritualism, law of attraction came into play also. So some of it was doubt, which didn't help, but a lot of it I did manifest. A lot of different things. And Yoga Nidra was a big part of it, along with my prayers and church and rosary and spiritual churches. I would go to Yoga Nidra and I would set intentions for myself, and it's a guided sleep meditation is mainly what it is. It's about 45 minutes long. Sometimes it can be a little shorter, sometimes longer. You put intentions and they go deeper than hypnosis to manifest or to unmanifest things in your life.
Okay.
So this is totally up to you. It's your practice. I'm the catalyst to guide it, and that's pretty much what I do with my readings.
Do you make your own tape, or you tell somebody what you want on the tape?
I just go with the cards that I'm given. The Amrit Institute is where I got my certification from. So they have cards, and you can wing it. You don't have to use the cards, but they're very helpful.
The what institute?
Amrit Yoga Nidra. It's Amrit Institute in Florida, where I was certified from, but it's definitely a different type of Yoga Nidra. And
it's not poses.
Yogi Desai, he was one of the people that helped to develop the process. Well, he's the main one, and then his daughter Kamini also. So he took this from other yogis, from a practice that's ancient, that's thousands, millenniums, years old. So he kind of put it all into these cards so that it's easy. Once you get certified, you just go by the cards, and then you kind of guide people to do it. So it does include some postures, not a lot. You don't have to do postures, but it does include some if you'd like to. It includes chanting.
Now, what's on the card?
So the cards will tell you what to do.
Describe a specific one.
So one of the cards will guide you into the process of Yoga Nidra. And so it will tell you now, is the time to let go. If you need to, you can just, adjust. If you have to make any more adjustments, now you don't want to move. Once you do that, this is the time where you are to stay completely still. And I will guide you, and you can call in your guides and angels. You can set your intentions for whatever you want, or we'll sometimes do a group intention. The card is sometimes giving you an option. So you don't always have to do just one thing. It'll give you an option. So you can do a group intention, or they can do their private intentions. And then you will tell them, this is the, listen to my voice. This is the time now not to move, to stay still and quiet, and just to follow my guidance and go into this deep state of what I think is your soul state. It's not really hypnosis.
It's not hypnosis.
Totally different than hypnosis.
So it's kind of like a deep guided meditation.
Yes.
Okay.
I got two questions
once you're into
for you.
it really sets itself up for being a catalyst to manifest or unmanifest stuff.
What gifts did your grandmother have?
Which one?
The one in Vermont, New Hampshire, wherever she was.
Well,
it sounds like that she
had
was
a lot
very
of-
connected to.
a lot of spiritual gifts, but she was so unconnected to the world. My grandparents always, I was told, were poor on that side. They didn't have much. Well, let me tell you, now looking back, I'm like, who the heck, really? They had a lot. They had a big piece of land, and they had horses. I grew up riding horses from the time I was little. They had all kinds of different animals. And
Yeah, but what were her spiritual gifts?
Gardens.
Sounds like she was very connected
to nature.
To earth.
She had a lot of cats. Most of them were outdoors, some were indoor. I was just surrounded by animals. They actually,
Unconditional
like my
love.
aunts and uncles, they would find like a squirrel or a raccoon, and then they would like, give it milk if they found it like all by itself.
Babies.
So they had a raccoon from the time it was like an infant. I remember them feeding it until it died, and it was like this big. And it was fed very well.
They fed it well, yes.
Yeah.
Raccoons are
So
tough
that
critters.
side of the family, as well as the other side, and they're always connected to spirit, not just to other people, like unconditional love, like you said, like to animals, but
Now,
they're always connected to spirit.
My other
and to,
question
like,
is,
nature.
I'm listening to you describe what you're doing, and you're not saying it might not even be part of your reality, but I'm hearing past lives that you did this stuff. Have you ever asked that question?
It's a good question.
What have I
past
done
life
in the-
readings, and some of them I did actually in Salem, Massachusetts, and people told me partway through the reading or after the reading that I was dead on because they had done family trees or had heard of their family tree being done, and so they actually told me some of the stuff that I told them about where they came from or what they had done in past lives their family had done or they came from
Yeah,
those
but no,
areas.
what did you
So
do?
I know that I have a past life as well. I believe in that completely. Obviously, I do those readings, and I've actually had spirit talk to me when I was little. I didn't know that was what they were telling me or what they were doing, but they were talking to me.
So you've never asked other people about your past lives, or you've never had visions of them? Okay,
Not
that's
really,
just
no.
curious. I mean, it's not.
No, I've never delved into my past life, although I know I have one.
Yeah, that's a different aspect though. too,
Probably
that you
more
go
than
down.
one, I'm
Yeah.
afraid.
No one's ever asked me that. I've never really delved into my past life, but I know that. What I'm doing here
They're
is
just interesting. They're
completely-
not mandatory.
completely
present.
different. I have an idea of some of the stuff that I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've always been connected to nature. The other side of the family, even though they were extreme Catholic, my papa, he worked for a lot of different nurseries, and he had the biggest garden going. I mean, when they sold his piece of land, the people that bought it built a house behind it and sold that property with the house, and they still live in the house with the other side, because that's how big the back of their yard was. And he had a garden like you wouldn't believe. He had every tree, every plant, every fruit, every vegetable. So I grew up around a lot of nature, outside, outdoors.
Both sides of your family.
With, They didn't have pets though. They didn't like animals at all on that side. There was a little different. There were some differences, but there was a lot of commonalities too.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm eclectic.
Now, when people come to you, what kind of problems do you draw? What you're drawing people
Is
that
there
have a
something
particular
specific?
problems.
I've been told by
Particular type
more
of
than
problems.
one Catholic priest. One a while back when I was in my 20s, and one recently. I forgive you of this life and all your past lives. So what I try to do when I do a reading is I don't say I'm doing this reading this way with this spread or these cards, or I usually let spirit all the time, actually not usually, all the time, come in and direct what's going to happen. So they're part of this as much as I am. So they have a choice when they sit down with me to pray with me or not. That's how I start usually. I will say a prayer, call in my guides and angels. Most of the time, if I forget sometimes, then I always go back and say, well, spirit was there anyway. You know, I'm human. But more 9 times out of 10, I'll start with the prayer, pray with them, or they can just hold my hand, and then I'll ask and be guided to different decks, and I will say, if you'd like to choose cards or pick cards or decks, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Sometimes they'll tell me they have to, but most of the time, they have the choice. So whatever spirit is telling me, that's where it goes. And then I, in the process, like in a past life reading, for example, can and will lift blocks that are coming up for them in their life from a past life, and also heal or bring forward gifts.
Now,
from
how do you
past
go
life to
about
this one.
healing or correcting a blockage from somebody's past
I
life?
have no idea how it happens.
No,
just
I
know
mean, what-
Spirit's doing it.
What do you wind up recommending to them so that they can resolve that issue? What type of stuff?
Usually through the reading. Like, for example, I had someone sit down who was in a dilemma and didn't know if they should move to another country, third world country or not. And after my reading, I pretty much told them that the gifts that they've had throughout all of their past lives, that's why I described them the way I did and how they were, is because they've always been on that path. They've always been a person that will step up and do something completely out of the norm of what culture expects of this person to do, and go somewhere and do something amazing. And they said, you just made up my mind. I kind of was leaning towards going, but now you made me 100% positive. This is my fate.
So
that
through
kind
the
of thing.
readings, you help them
So a
decide
lot
what
of
they need
times
to
through
do.
the reading, it'll come up.
So there's,
So what I'm hearing is the answer to your question. People that need to make decisions and choices and moves, whether it be to release something, to move forward in some way, but they don't know which way to go, seem to be attracted to you.
Right, and I'd like to work with children. So in March of this year, I'm planning on going back to Florida to do Yoga Nidra with children, because I did do a lot of kids and families in Salem as well. So that was really fun. And I've worked with kids with emotional issues, behavioral issues, adults as well, but lots of different populations over the years.
Is this
but,
something that you do now
I
outside
like
of
working
Salem?
with kids.
Have you done this throughout the year, outside of October, though?
I've been to a lot of different festivals around Rhode Island.
Psychic fairs.
Yeah,
and-
psychic fairs.
Okay, so that's what you mostly do at
Rafa
the...
Yoga was one of the biggest ones I've done.
which one?
Was the first year.
Rafa Yoga.
She just recently, Christine Rafa, had a festival. And so I did my card readings at her yoga fest,
Where was that? No.
right at Rafa Yoga in Cranston.
Oh, in Cranston, okay.
Okay, so you don't have your own office at this point in time?
No, I don't have a place. I did have a couple places. I was working out of Northern Lights Holistic in Portsmouth for a while.
So
That was
was I.
very expensive.
So was I.
Yeah, it was a little expensive.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. So, maybe that's where I met you from. And then I also had the Heart Center Yoga in Narragansett. And so I've had some issues with getting clients. I've had a radio show recently where I was paying for the spot in Woonsocket, and it was WNRI, Michelle's Mystical Messages, and I gave it up recently, a few weeks back, even though I really liked it for a couple of reasons. And one of them had to do with my twin flame. So it was a little personal, and I had to leave.
Translate twin flame.
So twin flame, I don't know everything about twin flames, and I don't claim to. All I know is when I had my big awakening, spiritual awakening, Kundalini thing, and I was bombarded with empathy, and I always was an empath, but I didn't know what an empath was or how much of an empath I actually can be. I had to tailor that back along with some of the mediumship because it was overwhelming how much and how open I could be.
Yeah.
And then it was just something that it came to me, and I was like, I don't know what that is. And then I saw something on Facebook or YouTube or Google, wherever, and I started reading about it, and it was like, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah, it's like two very similar energies.
It was like I
though.
heard the words, but I didn't know what it meant, and then I saw it, and I started reading about it, and I was like, oh, okay.
So it's kind of like, like two very similar energies, so that's kind of fits like a glove, where like two people, like two individuals, two souls, in
Right.
essence, were kind of like, they complement each other.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
was
like
strange.
meeting a friend for the first time that you swear you've known for 20 years. It's kind of like
Very
that.
similar.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of like that.
And it's a lot different than anyone else I've ever met or anyone else I've ever wanted to be with, but then it kind of went into a different place, which now I know is why, because the twin flame is not all, like happiness and light and angels. It's very dark. It can be very dark, and it can bring up a lot of dark stuff in your past or
Depending
in your
what
past
the
life
point of
as
the
well.
purpose is.
When you bring up dark, you have the opportunity to put it in the
clear
light,
it.
to
Yes.
clear it,
Yes.
and release it.
Right.
That's an
But
important
it's
thing.
very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable, and it's not easy. Like, I wanted to own a business, and my husband, I'm still married now, but my husband now, who I'm still married to, at one point was going to help me to find a place, because I was going to have this business, but my intentions for this business didn't go there, so I got very angry because I wanted to have a place where I wasn't the spotlight. I was the catalyst for all these other people coming into my shop to do their thing, and not to be like a spiritualist church or anything, but just to have like a space where I would rent out to different people to do their thing, but I would get the benefit of getting the healings of everybody at the same time. So I wasn't planning on really doing a whole lot. I was just kind of like hoping that everybody would want to come and like have like, you know, a place to like do their stuff.
You wanted to be the venue.
The venue,
Yeah.
right. And so it didn't work out. And then things didn't go so well. My twin and I completely separated for like the last over 3 years. So I went into a really dark place, and I tried to fight it for a long, long time, but then it took over, and it literally took over for a while, and it kind of wants me to like not be so good. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to try to, as much as I can, like you said, to overcome it with the light. And so that's where I am right now. I'm like back on that climb, but I'm also realizing a lot of this stuff kind of was already taught to me, and everyone knows how to do this. But we don't always listen to it, is to follow that, you know, the positive, the law of attraction, all that, even when it's not going the way you want it to go. To keep, you know, those positive thoughts, because your thoughts can attract things that you don't want.
Yes.
Not always, but they do. But there is, I believe, because of being Catholic, and other reasons, that there is mercy too. You know what I mean? There's people out there that think, if you think this, then this will happen, or if you think that, this will happen. But there's also mercy, because, you know, everybody watches crazy shows today and does talks about crazy stuff, you know, like
There's a
video
lot of
games and all that. And
negative energy
it's a
around.
lot of negative energy. So things could be a lot worse. So there's some grace, there's some force, there's some power bigger than us, whatever you want to call it, whether it's God or universe, whatever.
If I may add,
Overcomes
whenever
that.
something negative comes in and doesn't want to leave right away, I always look at the energy and say, you may slow me down, but I know where I'm going.
Right.
I know I'm from the light.
Right.
And I will only learn something
Right.
from you slowing me down, but you can't stop me.
I've also been attracted to a lot of negativity, trying to change it, and got sucked into it and just was happy. But at the same time, I was not happy because I was letting people control everything I did and everything
Yeah,
I
not good, not
felt,
good.
and
Yeah, you're
it's
giving
not
control
good.
away.
It
In a bad way.
It is one of the problems with being an empath and a medium.
If
that-
people doesn't know, like what people don't understand what an empath is sometimes, and I don't even want to call myself that anymore.
Give us a
in some
definition
ways,
of what you
because,
call an empath.
You can have empathy for someone and feel for somebody. Like, for instance, somebody passes away and you're best friends with that person and they're very upset. So you can like feel their sadness.
That's the empathy.
That's
yeah.
empathy. But when you're an empath, it's to the like millionth degree. Sometimes
You actually feel other
can
people's
feel
feelings,
other
yeah.
people's feelings sometimes around the world, which is nuts. And
if
but
you
it's
give it
not.
that much.
It's really true. And so trying to tailor that down a little bit, because I can take on way too much.
Yeah, as an empath,
And I don't
you
want to
say
take on
that-
some people's energy, you know what I mean? But sometimes it's not easy to block or have a choice, but it works in different ways. So some people aren't actually aware that there's a whole different world out there. There is spiritual and there is warfare. There's good and there's bad, and it is an energy, it is a power, it is a force that controls everything.
Seeks to control.
Or seeks to control everything,
Yeah.
right. But we also have control
Yes.
of a lot. So if you want to say, like, you know, there's a Illuminati, or the people believe right now, because we're in the Pleiadian energy of like the Greys and things like that, going into the aliens. Some people laugh at you and say, well, that's all like, you know, on TV and movies. Well, no, this is really real.
Well, I think the
So a
Greys
lot
are
of
from
people,
Planet
it
Nine.
is real.
Yeah.
And
So possible. Possible.
everything's possible, right?
So before we end the show, don't mean to interrupt though, can people get a hold of you though if they want to, reading or some kind of the holistic stuff that you do? How can they get hold of you?
They can call me directly. I don't mind if they call as long as I don't get bombarded with phone calls
And
to my cell
you are
phone.
who?
But message me first, and I will give you my cell phone number on Facebook. You can reach me. It's Michelle Blanding, or you can actually look me up. And
You
I
have a
have
website?
no more website, but I do have a couple of pages on Facebook. So yes, they are me. They're all me. It's Michelle Blanding, and it is Magical Yoga Arts.
And how are you
then
spelling that?
I have a secret page. So if you'd like to be part of that, you can ask me about that as well.
And how, when they're trying to find you, how are you spelling your name?
MICHELLEBLANDING. Michelle
You're
Blanding.
spelling that much too fast.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's Michelle with 2 L's.
Yeah.
And then the last name is B as in boy, land, like a piece of land, and then ING at the end. So Michelle Blanding on Facebook.
I want to add something to what we were talking about, because I don't want to leave on the note that there is negative. There is solution to negative. It is the light. And instead of empathy, we have to work our way to compassion, which means loving and caring about other people, but not taking on their emotions,
And when I say
their
everything's
negativity.
possible, it is true, everything's possible, but at the same time, you can't have everything.
No,
So-
no. You wouldn't want everything.
You wouldn't want everything anyway. So there's a lot more that we can discuss as far as that. But I believe that yes, there's truth to almost every single thing
And
out
there's
there.
learning in
And
everything.
There's learning in everything. But you have to be open to it.
I prefer to
And-
think in terms of there's not negativity, it's just some levels of consciousness aren't as evolved
Right.
yet.
Right.
Let's not think of them as terms of
Right.
negative, they're just not as evolved.
Well,
to the
they're
higher-
lower energy than
higher
we are.
vibration.
Yeah.
There's
So
a lot of things that
it
I
tends
love
to
about
pull down.
Right. There's a lot of things that I love about everything that I've been through, and all the different religions and different spiritual churches and everything. But there's a lot of negative too out there, so you have to be very careful of what you take in and what you believe and how you act when you take it in.
Teach
So.
you all the negative stuff.
Yeah, the negative stuff, I believe that you have to kind of like push some of that away, because there's still faith. You got to go, that's the main thing, faith and love above everything else.
Yeah. The Catholic Church does teach you to reach out to Jesus, to reach out to Holy Mother Mary,
But
Mother
there's a lot
Teresa.
What
You
was
know,
that?
it tells you to follow the guidance of saints like,
Right.
Saint Joseph,
There's a lot of negative in that too, because I'm
Saint
very
Francis.
close to to the Hindu temple and to priests there, and I've been very close to one recently. So I believe in a lot of different faiths, and you can't judge people because of what they believe in,
Yeah.
or
we all have our
how
own
they grow
path
up.
we gotta
This
figure.
is their culture, and so there's a lot to learn from everyone.
One thing that's pretty non-denominational are the angels.
Yeah.
They call them different things in different faiths, but there are angels in many, many faiths. In the
As long as you stay with the higher holy
the
ones.
In the Eastern faiths, they call them Dakini.
Yeah.
They're lesser gods,
Right.
but really they're equivalent to angels.
And the angels
you can
are,
find the
are there.
parallel.
I find white feathers all the time, like we just said.
Yeah.
Too.
So what's your
Beautiful.
Facebook page again?
So I don't have a website anymore. I did, and I don't actually have a place to work, but I can find a place to work out of. So if you want to contact me, I will be able to find a place for us to meet, or we can do it by Facebook or by phone or messenger. It's Michelle with 2 L's, Blanding, BLANDING. And I would love to read for you or to help you out. I've done actually a lot of things with like other people, helping them to evolve as far as, and not even getting paid, to be just a catalyst for them to heal. So if you need something, just reach out to me, because I'd love to work with children, especially with behavioral and emotional issues.
Yeah. Well, that's the healer, though. That's for
And
sure.
you can do some work on the phone.
Yeah? Is it by
And
phone?
the impression I have is that you are very, very healing through spirit.
Right.
And sometimes you're too open and you take
Yes.
on too much.
Right.
That's common with bipolars. I
Yeah.
have the bipolar.
A lot of healers do.
So-
I've been told.
Yeah.
The higher ones have a lot of issues.
Have you ever taken any classes in Akashic Records?
He's
Yes.
very into the Akashic.
Okay,
lately.
so
Well,
we're
I'm
just-
just thinking that might be